Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to Clinic Growth Secrets, where we teach you how to get more patients, make more profit per patient, and keep them as long as humanly possible. Guys, if you're a new listener to the show or an avid listener, you guys know that we have a fee for the show. The fee is very simple. We're not going to tempt your credit card or ask for any monetary gifts. We're just going to ask that if you get value from today's show, that you share with colleagues, friends, loved ones. We do grow organically by word of mouth, no paid advertising and no paid sponsorships. That way we can say what we want and when we want to on the show. Today, we're thrilled to have a chiropractor who has left and really an incredible mark on the industry and is continuing to have a massive impact day after day. I want everyone to say hello to Dr. Chris Tomshack, really the brains behind none other than HealthSource, really a household name that rings loud in the industry. Over 200 sold franchises across the United States and enjoying a whopping over $100 million in yearly revenue. Dr. Chris, welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks. Good to be here.
And so your work has really been valued by platforms such as Fox, ABC, CBS, Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, and many, many others. And so you've had a massive impact that we know, and that's why you're on the show. And so selfishly, to start us off, I'm curious, right? Like, how did you make this transition? How is it that you've been able to achieve what you've achieved and some offices can, barely break even? What was that transformation journey for you?
Okay. Well, that's interesting. And in order to give you the complete answer, I'm going to go back to fourth grade.
Perfect.
So fourth grade is when I started my first company. My brother and I literally hand printed up stock certificates and sold stocks to anybody who had some spare change. Raised a bunch of cash. By a bunch of cash, I'm talking like $20,
Hmm.
and bought a bunch of candy. We started retailing candy to the neighborhood kids, and I've been working ever since. So I got that entrepreneurial flair way back then. And then what shoved me into healthcare is the fact that when I was born, it was a bit of a problem. My twin did not make it. I barely made it, and was constantly sick first 8 to 10 years of my life. I mean, missing tons of school. And so at a very young age, I started looking into and researching health and how do I get healthy again? And again, I should say, how do I get healthy, period? And that led me into just an absolute love of what I call the life sciences. So I had this love for business from that early entrepreneurial uh, route, so to speak. And then I married that with healthcare. I studied both business. So how do we make the transition? Well, in college, I studied both business and the sciences. I actually graduated with a business degree, studied business at the graduate level. And then obviously went on to chiropractic college and married the two. So when I graduated, my wife and I set up shop like the next day, because we'd been working on a build out during the last trimester. And we set up shop and we hit the ground running. We systematized everything. I relied on the business background, and then relied on the clinical background that I got a great base at college at Palmer. I got a great base, but I started studying the things. Okay, what else is coming out? How can we get a better outcome? So we married getting best outcomes with business systems, and man, we grew. We just grew. Inside of just a tick over 6 years, we were the biggest clinic in the entire state of Ohio by 300%. And so that led the basis for what we do today with HealthSource. But at the time, I wanted to, how do we do something bigger that makes a bigger impact than just what we're doing in this clinic? And so I started opening up additional clinics. But I knew in order to do that, and I'd read the Gerber books, Michael Gerber books, work on your business, not in your business, and also studied under the great Dan Kennedy, and came to quickly realize that if I wanted to build a bigger system, I needed to get out of the way. So I retired from active practice at a very young age and became a true CEO and built a second clinic, a third clinic, a fourth clinic. And as we were doing that, and within 6 months, each clinic was the largest within its market. And then I got bored. I tend to get bored if things aren't challenging enough. And I thought, you know what? This is fun. I can open a new clinic every 90 days, but how do we make a bigger, it goes back to this bigger impact. How do we make a bigger impact? How do we evolve? How do we help evolve our industry so that everybody can get the kind of results that we get? So I knew that franchising was the right way to go. So that's when we started franchising, which was 2006. So that's sort of the transition on how this whole thing began.
It makes an absolute ton of sense. And so, for the listeners, right, you had the first clinic, 300% larger than anyone anywhere near you, right? And then the
Mm-hmm.
second one blew up, third one blew up. It just kind of snowballed. So obviously, once you have something that's working, you can multiply it, right? But
Right.
the first piece is you got to get something working. And someone might think like, man, like my business, like the listener might be like, hey, my business is okay, but it's like, I'm not dominating like Dr. Chris did. Right. So what would you maybe say that, really was that secret to kind of market, like single market domination, if you will?
Well, twofold. Number one, the best marketing in the world doesn't fix a broken product. And we both know that Dan Kennedy said that, right?
100%. Yes, he did. I was just going to say, yes, he did.
I quote him on that every 2 weeks, and not 2 weeks goes
It's
by.
so true, though. You spend your life building a ridiculously good product you never got to market again, right?
Something like that. Yes.
Yeah.
So, well, I took that to heart, and that led to what we do today. I mean, we test everything coming. I fly all over the world testing the newest technology to find out if what is there something being developed or something that's going to be soon released to market, or was just recently released to market that can improve outcomes. So first and foremost, it was concentrating on delivering a higher value product, a higher level service. In other words, a better result to the patients than anybody else. That was first and foremost. I figured we got to get the product right. We've got to get par excellence with the product first, and we're committed to maintaining that. And then number two, we got to get everything systematized. And part of that is, you can have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows you have it,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to grow. So I became a marketing expert. I studied under a number of individuals. Dan's just one of them, and we built a marketing machine as well, so we could attract a ton of new patients. I mean a ton of new patients, and get them better. And so, as a result today with that particular model, and that's our culture, um, that cultural model that we have built, I mean, it's given us right now a 99% patient satisfaction rating by third party. 99%. I'll put that against anybody, but it's that dedication to the product, and then making sure the communities know that the product is there. That's how you do it. A lot of people just want to focus. Well, tell me how to get new patients. No, 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 no. It doesn't start there. Let's look at the product first. Let's build a great car. Let's build the best car before we start to sell it.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And do you feel from, so you're marketing genius, obviously Dan Kennedy. If those that are listening, please go and find Dan Kennedy if you don't know who that is. Uh, would you say that with your search for technology, you flying over, testing out these new things, was that from a marketing perspective, was that to really position HealthSource as kind of a blue ocean or a kind of new opportunity to people? Or was it to expand on what they already knew? Like, how was that positioned?
The search for tech, we're the most technology forward brand that exists within the chiropractic profession. And so why? Well, number one, because the technology that's being, and this is a cool thing, and a practitioner today, they simply don't have time to keep track, and read about all this stuff. They don't have the ability that I have, which is to fly all over the world and attend these seminars, where I learn from the people who are actually inventing this stuff. But why the tech? It's to always improve our product. I mean, as Tony Robbins says, if you're not growing, you're dying. And you must be in a state of constant and never-ending improvement. And that's what we are committed to. That's I mentioned the word culture a few minutes ago. That's our culture. And as Peter Drucker, who's the late great management guru of all gurus, he said that that culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Mhm.
And so if you want to grow, first, you've got to have a phenomenal product. Who wants to wake up and say, "Oh, I want to be just like everybody else today in terms of what I'm delivering to my patients"? How about let's be the best, and then let's figure out how to get our message across to everybody. And if and then let me backtrack a second. So we're back on, well, how do we become the best? What's doing things differently than what everybody else does? That's where technology plays a role, and technology is leaving a lot of the old school things in the dust.
Amen to that. Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. And I think that's very why you guys have been able to maintain that 99% or higher satisfaction rate across all these different locations. We've talked a little bit, and at least the research I've done on you, Health Source, although systematic, Michael Gerber, right? It's the E-Myth. It's system driven, right? We know that.
Mhm.
I'm a systems engineer by trade, so I nerd out on that stuff too.
Right
Uh,
on.
so for you though, like, how do we make it positioned? Like, Health Source is known to not be the one size fits all shop though for
Mhm.
patients, right? So
Mhm.
how are we still scaling the systems, but still maintaining that custom feel for the patient? Because I know people run into that. They're like, man, my patient care is it's so personalized. I can't scale it just because I can't scale me.
Oh, so that you just identify the largest conundrum for a single doctor trying to grow their practice is, hey, how do I scale me? Well, guess what? You can't replicate yourself, but what you can do through the principle of leverage and a very good method of training additional team members is then you begin to impart them with the individual skill sets so that we can, through leverage again, start taking care of more and more people with the same quality of care. And if you're scaling a team appropriately and teaching them appropriately, you can see a lot more people. Then and only then do you begin to replicate yourself with these. And that's when you begin to hire additional doctors. Most people hire doctors for additional doctors or an associate doctor for all the wrong reasons. They think it's going to make them more money. And until you've addressed scalability, training, vision casting, future casting for strategic purposes and tactical purposes, it's not going to work. As a matter of fact, the majority of doctors who hire an associate crash and burn on this horrifically. And then to take it one step first, that's like the hardest step. To do that right, to get an associate doctor that is well equipped and can do 80 to 90% of what you, as good as you can do, which is an absolute grand slam. And then the next single hardest step, which is where almost everybody I have ever met outside of our organization has crashed and burned horrifically, is going from one clinic to a second clinic or to a third clinic. What we see is revenues falls in the first clinic because attention goes to the second clinic. The second clinic doesn't start to grow nearly the way the first one did. Panic sets in. The doctor runs back to the first clinic, or worse, is treating patients in more than one clinic, which is a recipe for it. It's not just insanity. It's a recipe for absolute disaster. It doesn't work, right? So it's that replicating your own hands and your own clinical decision making by really well-trained DCs. So I was at what we call it HealthSource University. It's where the newest doctors, when they're hired, they come, they study online with us for an enormous amount of work, and then they show up here in person. We train them, and I popped in. I have a full training team that takes care of all that, and I was watching, as in the back of the room, as these doctors are taken from, my God, this is all I learned in school was this stuff. And you're teaching me all this postdoctoral stuff. Well, how do I get my hands around that? Well, you do it slowly, you do it methodically, and you do it so that complete absorption and assimilation has taken place. That's a difficult process, but once learned, oh my God, does it free you up just immensely. That particular step, when done right, if it's the doctor's vision, can allow them to extricate themselves from patient care for the rest of their life if they want to, or just to take care of patients when they choose to. Mm-hmm. So now we begin living life on our terms, which is a place most chiropractors would like to get to at some point in their career.
Well said. Well said. God, there was so much gold there, guys. I mean, if you're not already paying the fee for the show, I mean, now's the time. You had said something that or at least alluded to something that we see commonly too with the associate, and kind of adding in, like if it's a single location, adding the associate, or like you said, multiplying locations, mm-hmm. is that I hear this on calls all the time. It's like, oh, I'm going to hire this associate and they're going to bring in new patients. I'm like, dude, you're not hiring a marketing director, dude. You're hiring a doc. You know what I mean? And that's not, a lot of times that's not what they want to do right away. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They might attract new people, but it's a tough kind of transition for them when it's like, hey, you went to school for patient care. Oh, by the way, you got to bring in a bunch of new ones every month too, So I think that like keeping people, as Jim Collins, you mentioned Peter Drucker, mm-hmm. keeping the right people in the right seat on the bus can be very important too,
Absolutely. Absolutely. What you just pointed out is almost comical to me at this point. And that when a doctor will say, well, I'm going to expect them to bring in X amount of new patients. Well, you know what? That's an absurdity, unless you're going to teach this doctor how to do this, because they're coming in green in most cases. So let's equip them. Let's train them. Let's absolutely, I just bash myself with my microphone. Let's equip them and train them for success, mm-hmm. so that they know what they're supposed to be doing. In other words, you have to set the expectations of participation in advance before they sign a contract, before you go to work. And then you begin to train them. And then and only then, once this associate doctor has demonstrated proficiency in what you're teaching him, if it's from a marketing standpoint, well, then and only then Are they equipped to go out on their own and begin to bring in new patients? But that's just one of the marketing tools that should be utilized.
100%. Absolutely. There you mentioned HealthSource University, and from our conversation, there seems to be an absolute obsession with training, which there needs to be, I think, in all cases. I
Hmm.
always say training is not something that you've done; it's something that you do. It's consistent. It's never ending, right?
That's right.
So for your docs, like you got a massive group, over 200 different people, over in terms of locations that you're working with. How are you training everybody on the same thing? Like, what is the cadence of training to even keep all these people accountable?
Right on. I love the question because I mean, if there's like a magic bullet, everyone wants to know what's the magic bullet to success. Well, if there truly is a magic bullet, it's training. So we started doing something very unusual in this profession back in 20 odd years ago. And we're the first people to do it. Tuesday mornings, we're not open for business. We're training. Every single clinic in our system every Tuesday morning is putting in 3 hours of training. Our training team builds them a curriculum well in advance. It's a curriculum that is easy to digest, easy to teach, easy to run, and then that curriculum is delegated to certain members of each clinic's team to run, and we sharpen the axe every single Tuesday. But so that's what keeps you sharp. You got to get sharp to begin with.
Right.
So when we bring in a new doc, a new clinic owner, whether it's a chiropractor or not a chiropractor, is the training begins the day after they sign a franchise agreement. And we've got an online learning management system, which is a training tool.
Yep.
It's got over 1,000 videos, training
Wow.
videos
Wow.
with 1,000 quizzes. And so they're
Yes,
broken down
sir.
by category. Each individual. So if you're front desk specialist, well, these are for you. If you're a marketing manager, these are for you. If you're a clinic director, these are for you. If you're an associate doctor, these are for you. And that's all. Those are all used and done, utilized, assimilated before they ever even come to our HealthSource University, which they come to before they open. And that's before they start the Tuesday training processes that we began back in the late 1990s and just keep getting better and better and better. So training for us, oh my God, it never ends. As a matter of fact, this morning we're talking. We do every half year we do a regional summit, which is a virtual experience, and it's an intensive training. And we were finishing out that my training team was finishing out the curriculum for that. And then we have a yearly convention where we do additional training. The training never ends. If you want to be best in class, the training just simply never ends.
God, it's so good. Thousands. You hear that? 1,000 videos, quizzes, not just videos, but quizzes. Some of you
Mhm.
guys don't even have 5 videos you train the people on. You know what I mean? Like that just shows the level of perfection required to dominate, right?
Well, let me explain where this started. So when we started this process of the Tuesday trainings,
Yeah.
uh, we had 6 classes.
Oh, hey, you guys, and that's the whole point of the listener is like start somewhere, right? If you don't have the training
Yes.
course, if you don't have the university, build the university. Because at the end of the day, like the university, I mean, like you talked about leverage, like how much leverage? I mean, those 1,000 videos, people think, man, that's a lot of work, but it's like, yeah, dude, but like, what's the upside? The amount of leverage produced from the reproducible results from the reproducible videos is insane.
Absolutely, absolutely, and those classes are constantly being revamped and changed and upgraded and so
All the
forth.
time.
Yeah, but yeah, it's hypercritical. I mean, my God, as we all the old adage is the best of the best, like Tiger Woods has a coach. LeBron has additional coaches. They don't they don't accept status quo with themselves or, interestingly, with their teammates. So they train.
God, it's so good. Hey, it's so relevant too. One of the things you said was that Tuesday mornings, we're not seeing patients, we're training. And
Mhm.
I'm just finishing up a really, really good read called Onward by Howard Schultz, the Starbucks guy. And,
Yes.
when he came back as CEO from 2007, 2008, Starbucks had gone down 44% in their stock price. And he came
Hmm.
back on as CEO. And he said they actually closed every location for an entire day to do training, and the opportunity cost and the hard cost. People are like, you're losing millions in opportunity, you're losing millions in labor, but it was to make the product better. It was to make sure we were all alignment. So to your point, we're willing to lose short-term dollars to make sure that we can still be the best and world class in the market.
Absolutely. As a lot of very wise people have said in years past, well, it's if you're not spending the time and the resources to train, well, then you end up tripping over the dollars to get to the dimes. It's counterintuitive.
It is all one of our current mentors, he always says all great advice is counterintuitive. And so I think even on the show today, you might be thinking like, I can't close down anything to train, let alone make these modules. Like maybe that's the counterintuitive thing that your team needs, right? To be
Hmm.
world class. God, that's just absolutely brilliant. And so, with respect to time today, I want to a couple questions I need to answer because I know or need to ask. I know you're going to be a wizard. The first is like, what's the vision for HealthSource? Obviously, you're a big vision guy, right? You've been doing this since fourth grade. Like, what's the vision for HealthSource here?
I was just at to ask that question this morning at HealthSource University, and the vision is very straightforward. It is to build absolutely amazing clinics built on amazing that stand on the shoulders of amazing systems that will maintain that 99% satisfaction rating in every single state in every single country in which we do business, and as a result, provide amazing lifestyles and lives for not just the clinic owners, but for the clinic team members as well. In other words, a place where a career, not a job, for the thousands of people that we employ around the country today and the many more thousands that'll be coming here in the future. It's truly to, and while we're doing that, I almost forgot about this, while we're doing that, we're doing our very, very best to help evolve the profession in a fashion. I'm not talking about expanding scope or anything like that. That's not my thing. My thing is getting the very, very best results possible. And with the advancements in the technologies today, oh, what's coming down the pike right now will blow the average doctor. It'll blow that every doctor away because they just don't have time to stay current on all this stuff. There's just too much coming at us. So it's to be the most technologically forward brand that exists in chiropractic as well for the sole purpose of continuing to get a better result.
Results first.
Amen.
Avoiding the status quo, cutting edge solutions, constant innovation. I mean, if you study the business wizards of the world, so we mentioned a lot of them, Jim Collins, Peter Drucker, Michael Gerber, Dan Kennedy, you'll find a lot of commonalities in what Dr. Chris has been saying today. One question I have for you, sir, and I'm excited for your answer. And to be clear, and if you're an avid listener, I ask all my guests this. So this is kind of a hot seat question. Are you ready for it?
Fire.
All right. So here's my question. You wake up tomorrow morning. It's a hypothetical. You wake up tomorrow morning and you've lost everything. Okay? You don't have any money. All your clinics are gone. All your relationships are gone, but you have the same level of knowledge that you currently have today as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do over the next 30 days to build back as much as you possibly can to get the ball moving again?
For me, this is a simple answer because I already possess the knowledge. You took away my team and you took away my assets, right?
I did.
What I know how to do is I know how to build amazing teams. I know how to attract assets, and we would go to work immediately on that endeavor, and I would go right back into chiropractic, and in very short order, I will surpass exactly where we're at today.
Yeah.
I don't find that difficult at all.
Beautiful. Teams, people, systems.
Mm-hmm.
Well said, sir. Uh, for you, Dr. Chris, for those that are listening, obviously you've got like this is just like a tipping point, really like the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we can do with our limited time today. If somebody wants to, follow your journey, learn more, just where can people get in touch with you?
Oh, the easiest place is at our company website, which is healthsourcechiro.com. You can contact all of us right through that, and we've got a very large, complete, and well skilled and fun team that we're all happy to help.
Excellent. I'll make sure you guys leave that in the show notes for you guys too. I'll also put a couple different links to Dr. Chris's social profiles if you're okay with that too.
Right on, sure.
Excellent. Well, guys, again, if you guys got value, you know what to do. There's a share button somewhere around there. Find it, send it. There's a lot of people that are thinking too small in the profession. Dr. Chris is not one of them. And possibly if his words can get in their ears, we may be able to get the message to more human beings. I appreciate you being here, Dr. Chris.
You bet. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.